Hello. We are FUTCompanion. I'm Faisal, and this is Brad.
Evening.
Today we're going to be talking about a few things: market talk, UCLs, Player of the Month, Team of the Week, Screams, and FUTMOS, new promos that are coming out. We'll start off with Brad talking about what's happened in the market so far and what we think is going to happen in the future.
Yeah, so it's Brad again, of the Football Companion team. So we got a lot to talk about this week. Literally, there is investment opportunities everywhere, like I said, and we'll sort of go through the main bulk of that. Now, we'll start off with where the market is. It took quite a heavy dip again this weekend, whether or not it was expected. I think some of us thought that the high prices, that bubble that we saw over the last 2 weeks was sort of ready to burst. And I think team at the group stage, no matter what you think of it as a promo, sort of some people thought it could be coming the last Friday. Some people sort of thought that it might get skipped until after January. But so I think it caught people out and it dipped the market. Now, another reason why it's obviously dipped the market is because we are heading into FUTMOS. And I think that realistically, people are, although prices are low, people are scared to buy because, I think they are worried about potentially losing more money as we head into that sort of FUTMOS promo, I think. But there's other things. It's another UCL week. I think Faisal wants to talk about potential investments there as well. Do you?
Yeah, so it's kind of moving on from what Brad's kind of talking about, and the investment opportunities that you want to be looking at, where the market is going to be turning into. So right now, if you kind of want to be looking at these UCL cards, they are very, very low. Whether we get kind of more UCL promos, UCL SBCs, which I do think we do, some things are just too low. Kind of looking at UCL rare cards, you can kind of pick up the really rubbish ones for 1.5k and kind of the good nation ones for under 2k. You can even look at your 83s, 84s, 85s. Some of them are just the same price as your gold cards. Where if we do kind of get another UCL SBC or whatever you kind of want to call it, there's not much room for them to go down. So it's kind of balancing whether you want to invest now and you don't want to get caught out if we don't get things and everyone starts buying, because they are used as a requirement a lot coming into, we've got Player of the Month coming up that I'm sure that Brad wants to talk about soon. We've got FUTMOS that I'm sure they'll be used for there. Another thing that I want to talk about is UCL Lives. We're coming up to another game week. A couple of those cards that do look quite good and are quite risky. You've kind of got the Tottenham sort of Barcelona thing going on. Do Tottenham get through? Two potential guys there in Perisic and Sanchez. Sanchez kind of looks the better card, but it's very, very, very risky. It's one of those things, if you have hefty balls and you actually kind of want to back Spurs, he's very low for what a card like him, if he was to get upgraded and Spurs do actually go through, he's one of those cards that will look very, very good if they do get through. Another one that's been mentioned by Brad, Hamsich, there's potential for him to go through. They only need a draw at Anfield, but Liverpool are a team that would very capable of winning it there. They haven't been the best team other than the Bournemouth game the other day, so he's one of those players that look quite low at the time. The time we're kind of recording this, he's something that you kind of want to look into. Farman, 31 rated. He's already gone through as well. He looks quite good. And those kind of just the players that you want to be kind of looking out for, those kind of like ballsy moves, or even things that just look low really at that kind of point. And that kind of moves us on to team of the group stage. Some things I definitely recommend you getting. Jacko, he's same price as, kind of ordinary 86 gold cards. I'd probably pick up one, put it in the club. Like any kind of discard sort of investments that you have moving on in the future. The Europa League ones as well. And if you kind of feel with the market, it's a bit kind of risky if you want to be going into them, because we may get a team of the group stage promo, looking at Koulibaly that I like, Ericsson that I like, Neymar as well as a Cam that I like, and Handanovic. Those are the kind of cards that I like. Maybe buy time would be on Wednesday, see if we actually get a team of the group stage promo. And if we don't, market's normally quite low on a Wednesday night going into the Thursday when we get rewards. So that might be your high time if you do fancy getting into any of these cards. And that's all I really want to talk about UCL cards. And I think that brings us on to our Player of the Month, Sterling and Royce talk, really.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's three things, really. Number one, the Player of the Months. They've sort of almost been a little bit forgotten about. I think they were massively hyped up, and we saw that like the prices just exploded. I mean, you look at Inform Royce, it just went through the roof. So I would suggest that your time to invest in Royce is over. I wouldn't even bother touching it. I think there is room for him to go up more. So if you're holding some, then I think there is room there. But I wouldn't be looking to get on that particular train at the minute. Potentially, you could always have a look at his UCL cards. I don't think it's going to be needed in any Player of the Month SBC, but there is hype around it. I think it was 200, went up to 250. He's dropped back down again, and he'll likely go back up until Friday. Sterling, EA have sort of basically nailed us, if I'm honest, with this Laporte SBC. I don't really think anyone's necessarily going to be completing it, but it is going to keep Man City players high. So Man City investments you might be struggling with. Sterling, do you know what? Sterling Inform at 175k at PS4 prices, I think still looks reasonably priced when we are looking at sort of hype investments for Player of the Month. Another one, I like the look of his UCL card. I think it's currently at about 88. I think if we get another UCL SBC this week, that's going to drop, and I think that'll be go time. I'll definitely, it's a card that I'm definitely looking at. Word of advice though, I think although we got the Bundesliga voting last week, I don't think they'll drop both the Premier League and the Bundesliga on the same day.
No.
I think we'll see the Premier League as per usual this Friday, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Bundesliga was delayed until, I don't know, maybe Sunday or maybe next week. If that's the case, keep an eye out on all of those Royce investment opportunities, because I think if it doesn't drop on Friday, you're going to see a bit of panic and you're going to get an opportunity to get back into it again. I think FUTMOS is the next thing to talk about. It's on the agenda. It's Friday. I definitely think we're going to see it. It's a massive promo for EA. It has been every year. So what you get every year is a lot of new players that obviously get bought the game. So they're all coming into the game at Christmas time. Obviously, EA drop a lot of player-based SBCs. We generally see sort of 1 to 3 every day. As well as daily sort of little pack offer SBCs as well, promo packs, lightning rounds. Basically, the market is going to go down, but it's going to give you some investment opportunities. Please feel free to jump on our Twitter and have a look at the FUTMOS guide that we sort of made up, and we'll be giving you more advice sort of as we go into the Christmas periods. But basically, the long and short of it is look at some 82 to 86 rated players as per usual. Whenever they're low, whenever they're at the buy prices recommended. And also informs. Historically, because we get so many SBCs, discard informs tend to rise quite significantly. I mean, you were seeing sort of 75, 77 rated gold informs that were rising up to about 18, 19, 20k. So there's definitely sort of, actually in some cases they got to sort of 25k. So you've definitely got potential there. And I think...
And even just
also
to add to that as well, sorry...
Yeah.
I think it's important the longer you hold, the better the profit margins are going to be. Don't just kind of see, okay, well, I have like a German inform and, I don't know, some really good German player comes out. Don't kind of quick sell, sell it all on the first day, because the longer these kind of go, the supply comes down and, these profit margins are going to get bigger. So, be careful of when you sell. Don't, flood the market first kind of day when you see something good. Just be careful, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think talking about informs, I think we might actually get a really interesting team of the week this week, which again leads into the fact that we hopefully are going to get a decent promo from EA at FUTMOS. I mean, what do you think of the team of the week this week? How's it shaping up?
I mean, for this team of the week right now, I think it's I quite personally like it. I think there's a few moves that you can be making, especially the nation-wise. All the discard investments right now, I'm looking at these German players, French players, English players, all very good pickouts, especially Hernandez. You know, when we were kind of seeing, you know, you were talking about player of the month, you know, hype kind of dying. Hernandez, you can be picking up for about, you know, 12 to 13k. He's back now. He's back to about 15k now. But I was looking at Moy last week or whatever he was in packs. I didn't see him below 15k when there was all this, like, you know, that Sterling hype coming up, and Moy was not even anything special. Hernandez is something that, you know, Man City, like most likely Man City player will win. They did play West Ham, and like we did see last time with Aubameyang, you know, we could see an SBC involving all the teams that we've seen before, and Hernandez kind of fits that bill. So kind of like looking at those kind of guys, you got obviously Farman, a German keeper, 85 rate at 25k. You know, that's something that I think is too cheap. I think Brad kind of agrees. Coming up with Bundesliga player of the month, and especially you know, he's a usable card as well. Something like Bakayoko as well kind of depicts whether he is usable. I think his links are great, but for him, 18 to 20k, I think he's quite cheap. Another one that I very, very much like is Gnabry. I think his buy time was last night. Unfortunately, see if you can get him under 80k, but his links are amazing. I think he's the only usable option in the Bundesliga on the right hand side, basically. And with potentially player of the month Royce coming up, I think he's going to be one of those cards that are going to rise nicely. You know, we've kind of talked about Team of the Week, and kind of I want to go back to FUTMOS and kind of what we've seen going on. It's not really. I think most of the investing talk is kind of done now. I just kind of wanted to have a word quickly about kind of FUTMOS and what we've kind of been seeing the promo wise. I think a lot of people agree, or maybe not be, but I thought FUTMOS was an amazing promo last year. I genuinely thought it was one of my favourite ones. Kind of seeing the promos that we've been seeing so far, I'm quite worried that EA may not utilise it to the fullest extent.
I love FUTMOS. I've loved FUTMOS the last 2 years. It's given us loads of like decent players, interesting players, etc., etc. But you know, I'm not looking to slam EA or anything. But you know, let's just sort of have a look. So the UCL Live promo I thought was fantastic, and they've backed that up with a team in the group stage promo. And let's be frank, the players on offer, I wouldn't have said it any better than what's on the market already, and it's just massively disappointing because when they, you know, when they dropped that page on the console, team in the group stage coming in sort of 24 hours or whatever it was, it got me hyped. You know, promos get me hyped, and then they drop something like that, and I just thought, oh, come on, please. And I just hope they rescue it for FUTMOS. I really do.
I don't know. You know, we kind of like, you know, everyone was. I think every single promo we've gone so far, we've kind of looked at it and gone, you know, this is amazing. This is going to be great. And the hype before promos have always been high. As soon as they drops, it's just met with just a wave of disappointment. I mean, I kind of saw that team of the group stage, and it wasn't just the upgrades. You know, I'm kind of a player that doesn't very much like playing with a lot of these meta players, and I very much think I'm in the minority here. But I think it would have been a lot interesting if we did see a few like the Ndombles that we were looking at, Ores that we were looking at, that could have potentially got in. These guys that are not usable now in their UCL sort of gold kind of, you know, ratings right now, but with one or two upgrades could look very, very much like very interesting players to use, instead of just seeing the same repetitive names over and over again. And I know in this kind of FIFA right now, those players aren't really usable if you want to be getting into like the elites and all this kind of thing. But for a more casual player like myself, I would have found it interesting. I'm most likely the minority for this, and I think a lot of people would have liked to see what we saw with the team of the group stage, and that's all fine. But the upgrades we got were horrendous, and we were kind of looking at it, and we saw that 4 players out of excluding the Europa League cards got upgrades to their Champions League cards. 4 players out of a total, what is it, like 16 players or whatever it is? That's shocking. Like, I don't know. I just don't agree. It kind of like dulls down the promo to me. It kind of like, well, just get the UCL card, really. Other than what's it, Neymar, Eriksen, Koulibaly and Lewandowski.
Probably.
And Lewandowski, you know, just get the UCL cards. There's no point to any of that. And we're seeing the SBCs as well. We've talked about. I know Brad's kind of. He has something that I know he wants to talk about Kroos, but looking at Laporta today, like you can't. He's not usable, and there's nothing interesting about him, and you kind of go into those conspiracy like things where you can kind of go, oh, they've only put that there because a Man City player is going to win Player of the Month, and kind of stop you from getting some good prices on them. And otherwise, just give us some interesting, or give us if Laporte got a proper upgrade, because he's got an 84 gold card. Give him the proper inform upgrade, which is an 86 card. Why is he an 85? It's those kind of things that don't make sense to me. And even like,
well, it does. It doesn't. Cruz doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Why release an SBC card for effectively a carbon copy of the UCL card that's already on the market? Who wants to spend? And it needed. Was it an 84 rated, an 83 rated team, or was it an 85 and an 84? Either way, it was too overpriced. No. Too overpriced for what it was. I didn't even look at it.
I think it was an 85 team that you didn't need anything for, and then like some Germans or something like that, and another team. But I mean, like for if you're looking at it, it's a 91 rated card, and the thing was 100k. There was zero demand for it, absolutely zero. I mean, you couldn't get it any cheaper than that. It's just like, well, what's the point of it? Like, and this is what worries me about FUTMIS, right? The whole great thing about FUTMIS was how usable and how great and how interesting all of these upgrades and all these cards were. And even like the smaller cards, like I know Lingard got a position change, and everyone was like at the time, oh, this is so amazing. I know he's low rated, but he, it's so good. And I remember, and I regret not doing him. And I remember all of these FUTMIS cards were so amazing, and I loved every single one of them. But at the end of the day, I just feel going to FUTMIS, and I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely do hope I'm wrong, but I feel they'll muck it up by just having some weird cards, like maybe, I don't know, like Salah, who will get multiple informs going forward, whose FUTMIS card will be just non-usable going into like a month from here, and just give like really weird upgrades like that are not even worth it. And that's what I kind of worry about. Even Werner last year, I did Werner last year, who was quite expensive, and I didn't really mind, and I loved him, and I actually liked him more than I liked some of the upgrades he got later on in the year. I think it was like an 85 card, and I think he got like an 87. And the only time I changed him was for his team of the season or some high rated card. I mean, I used Fabinho all the way through, and I regret not doing more of these FUTMIS cards because they were so good and they were so refreshing, and the whole promo was so much fun. And that's what I worry about, is kind of seeing what we've had so far. It's just, well, what? Damn. Is it going to be worth it? I don't know. Well, what do you think?
Well, I think you've summed it up really. I just think I just all I'm going to sign off with is EA, please give us something breathtaking for FUTMIS. That's what we want. We just want some decent cards, some decent content. I'm not even bothered about SBCs that I can invest in anymore. I just want some decent content that gets me excited about the game. That's what I want.
Yeah, I know. That's all from us. Thank you very much. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.